Hey everyone, my name is Sonia Gordillo, and I am one of the pre-health advisors in the College of Arts and Sciences Advising located in Tykeson Hall. Today, we're going to go over the dental school academic requirements. More specifically, we're going to go over the common requirements, those that vary, highly recommended courses, and then we'll discuss the nuances in regards to these requirements. Lastly, we're going to go over some resources that you can utilize in your pre-dent journey. So the first common requirement for dental school admissions include general chemistry with labs. So you'll need 1 year. That is chemistry 221, 222, and 223. And then there is a corresponding lab, which is 227, 28, and 29. The lecture is 4 credits and the lab is 2 credits. So you can choose to take lecture and lab concurrently, or you can start off by doing just the lecture and then adding in the lab later on, as a lecture is a co-requisite or a prerequisite for that lab. Next, we have general biology with lab. You'll need 1 year. So that is bio 211, 212, and 214. That will complete your 1 year. If you're a biology major, you're going to have to do all 4 parts of this sequence. But if you're multidisciplinary science or a non-STEM pre-dental student, then you get to choose between 213 or 214. So that 214 is biochemistry, and that is going to best prepare you for that DAT exam. These courses are 5 credits each, and it has a lab embedded within the 5 credits of the course. Next, we have organic chemistry with lab. You'll need 1 year. So that is chemistry 331, 335, and 336. And the lab is 337 and 338. There is no lab in the spring. Reason being is that 337 and 338 are 3 credits each. So it's still a year's worth of lab there. Next, we have physics with lab. So that is physics 201, 202, 203. And just like that general chemistry sequence, it's 4 credits for the lecture and 2 credits for the lab. So you can choose to take lecture and lab concurrently, or start off by doing the lecture and then adding in the lab later on. Next is biochemistry. So it is common for programs to require at least 1 quarter of biochemistry, but there are some programs out there that want you to do 2 quarters of biochemistry. So if you're wanting to cast a wide net, we recommend the 2 quarters. So that is chemistry 360. This course is designed for pre-health students. It'll encompass everything you need to learn in terms of the DAT exam. And then you'll do chemistry 463. That is offered every winter quarter. And so that will complete your 2 quarters. Keep in mind that chemistry 463 has a prerequisite of B- or better in chemistry 360. Your other option is to pivot to that 400 level biochemistry sequence. So you would do 461 in the fall and 463 in the winter. So additional courses to consider. There are requirements that vary, and some of those, if they're not required, it's highly recommended. And then we have some highly recommended courses here. Regardless, we recommend that you take 3 to 4 highly recommended courses, specifically science courses, for your pre-dent journey. You don't want to just complete the common requirements. You want to add in at least 3 or 4 of these highly recommended courses. Statistically speaking, students that take more science in addition to the prerequisites have a higher chance of admission. So that is why we have this recommendation. So requirements that vary, that includes statistics. So you can choose to do stats 243Z or psychology 302. That's an advanced stats course, or math 425. Next, we have microbiology lecture. It's common for programs, like if they do require it, they'll want just the lecture. And if they don't require it, it is highly recommended by programs. The lab is the one where we don't usually see that often required by programs, but the challenging part is that microbiology lecture is 3 credits and then the lab is 3 credits. So if a program wants you to do 4 credits of microbiology and they're very strict about that policy, then you'll need to add in that lab to complete that minimum credit amount. So even though they might not require the lab, that lab might help you get to that credit amount that they're requiring. So there's a lot of tricky parts to that aspect there. Another requirement that varies is intro to psychology. Very few programs require this. I do just regularly recommend a behavioral science course to your graduation plan, so an intro to psych course could be a good add-on. Psychology 202 counts as a social science core education course, so you could double dip it that way. Next, we have the highly recommended courses list. So that includes cell biology, molecular genetics, neurobiology, anatomy and physiology, biochemistry lab, and then business courses, as many folks that end up pursuing a career in dentistry end up opening up their own practice. So having a business minor could be beneficial to that as well. And then lastly, some other courses to consider are art courses, and this could help increase dexterity skills, if not otherwise gained through other hobbies and extracurriculars. So even like sports or like knitting, those are other extracurricular things that you could be doing that you can talk about in your application in terms of your dexterity. In your dental school application process, they're going to specifically ask you, what things have you done to increase your dexterity skills? So that's something to keep in mind. All right, I wanted to point this out to highlight the common requirements. So this is located on the ADEA Go Dental Academic Preparation website. We have a link to this on our pre-health website. I'll point you to that link at the end of the presentation. But if you download this document, it's going to show you an overview of requirements for all US-based dental programs. So it's nice to see those common requirements listed there. You'll see that of the 70 schools, 70 of them require biology, 70 of them require general chemistry, OChem, and then it kind of drops right after that. So physics, biochem, English composition are the ones that are most commonly required. And then kind of up there would be microbiology. 18 programs want you to complete that. Anatomy and physiology between 17 and 13 programs. So it really varies. You can see the psychology courses is down kind of in the middle there. 4 programs require that. So this could be helpful in terms of deciding how much of those highly recommended courses or those that vary would you want to add to your graduation plan. So do take a look at that. So nuances to these prerequisites. So they are required to be graded. Pass, no pass is not accepted. So this is not to say that you can't utilize a pass, no pass option here at U of O. It's just to say that if you do utilize it, you're going to have to retake it for that letter grade. So the deadline for pass, no pass at U of O is always at the end of week 7. So around week 6, week 7 is a really good time for you to check in with your professors to see how you're doing in classes, decide whether or not you want to utilize pass, no pass. And you can always talk to an academic advisor about that as well. So you can email them, come into drop-in advising, or schedule an appointment. So in addition to that, they are required to be C or better. Most programs have that minimum requirement. I've also seen some programs require a B or better. So like Pacific Northwest University up in Washington, they have a dental program and they want a B or better, but they also don't require the DAT exam. So there are some specifics there. In addition to that, AP IB credit, there's a lot of variation as to whether or not programs accept AP IB credit. So it varies substantially, which makes it a little bit difficult in terms of planning if you have like AP chemistry or AP biology credit or through IB credit. My recommendation is to think about that DAT exam. Do you feel ready to be tested in chemistry? If you brought in AP chemistry, you're going to have to do that DAT exam. It's going to have a heavy amount of chemistry in it. Do you feel prepared to do that? If not, that could be a sign for you to retake that sequence. Also keep in mind that you're going to be taking upper division chemistry. Do you feel prepared to continue on with that sequence and be successful in that? Okay, so keep that in mind as to deciding whether or not you want to retake AP IB credit. Of course, if you decide not to retake it, there's going to be some implications down the line. So when it comes to creating your list of programs, you're going to need to look at that specific detail to make sure that you're going to be eligible for admissions for that program. Okay, so general rule of thumb here is to follow the common requirements list. In addition to that, also take a look at the requirements that vary and those highly recommended courses, as we at U of O recommend you take about 3 to 4 of those highly recommended courses, or potentially those that vary. That's going to help increase your likelihood of being admitted into dental programs. So in addition to following that list, we also recommend that you start exploring some programs, and you can do that through that academic preparation site. Also, you could look at program websites. That is a really great way for you to gather some information about prerequisites and the program in itself. Sometimes they post information on there about upcoming info sessions, so that's a really great way for you to RSVP to that and gather some additional information about programs. So if you are looking at their website, you may need to do some conversion. Sometimes they have some like general communication about semester credit on their website. Other times they want a certain amount of something. So if they're talking about it in semester credit, then you'll need to translate that as well. So just general rule of thumb here. So if they say 1 semester, that is equivalent to 2 quarters, and then 2 semester, that is equivalent to 3 quarters or a year. If you need to do a little bit of math, so quarter to semester, you divide quarter credit by 1.5. So an example here is a school wants 9 semester credits of writing, and you know you have taken 8 credits of writing. You do the math and it's 5.3. You're short. So you add in another 4 credits, and that actually gets you to that 9 semester credit mark. So now you need to add in another quarter of writing to complete their requirement. Semester to quarter credit, you multiply semester credit by 1.5. So school wants 3 semester credits of microbio. 3 times 1.5 is 4.5 quarter credits. But you look at U of O's website and you see that microbio is 3 quarter credits. So what do? So this is an example of a time in which you would want to reach out to that program, maybe provide a copy of the syllabus for microbiology and ask whether or not that would satisfy the requirement. And they will tell you whether or not it will. Sometimes they're pretty strict about that minimum credit amount, and they'll want you to take an extra quarter of microbiology in order to satisfy that. At U of O, we don't have an extra quarter of microbiology, so that's why you would want to add in the lab to complete that total credit. So lecture and lab combined is 6 credits of microbiology. Okay, so next step would be doing some graduation planning. We do have a video on graduation planning that's going to go over how to map out those prerequisites in a 4-year plan. It's going to talk about the prereqs for certain classes, in addition to thinking about your application timeline. Are you wanting to apply with a no gap year and going straight from undergrad to dental school? Are you wanting 1 year of a gap year or multiple years? And so that is going to have implications for your timeline, because you'll want to make sure that you have all of the content knowledge you need for that DAT exam and implementing the timeline for that DAT exam into your graduation plan. So with that in mind, do take a look at that video to do that next step. That would be a good next step in preparation to meeting with an academic advisor to go over your 4-year plan. A prerequisite that does come as a surprise is for Bio 214. So the prereq for that is Chemistry 223 and Bio 212. So that chemistry requirement is always surprising to students. There's no exception to this. You got to complete both of those courses before you can take Bio 214. Next would be, do you need to retake a course for a C or better? So keep that in mind as you're doing graduation planning. Does it make sense to do it right after you took that course, or would it make sense for you to wait to take it in the summer or in a different year? Are you considering taking summer courses? And if you are, would you want to do a science sequence, or would you want to take some core education classes to lighten up your credit load during the academic year where you are taking some science sequences? So there's some strategies there. At U of O, we offer biology and physics over the summer, the entire sequence in person. So if you're in your Eugene, that could be a good option. The organic chem sequence is also offered in the summer. Lectures are online and labs are in person. So you have some options there. And then lastly, there are some nuances in regards to your major. So biochem, neuro, and biology majors, I would recommend pausing the video and taking a look at the information on this slide. It looks like for neuroscience and biology, that's specific to the stats requirement if you're wanting to complete that for programs that require it. But do take a look at that website that has that full list of prerequisites, because that can help you make a more informed decision there. The nuance that I do want to highlight a little bit more is the human physiology major one. So if you are in your first year and you are taking chemistry 221 in the winter term, that means that you're going to be wrapping up the Gen Chem sequence essentially fall of your sophomore year. But when it comes to mapping out your sequences for your major, generally speaking, Gen Chem goes into first year, biology and human phys lower divisions are in second year. Then it goes anatomy and physiology, and then physics in that fourth year. So adding in organic chemistry to that plan gets a little bit tricky. You don't want to do it on top of anatomy and physiology. So naturally, it's going to go in that second year. Or we could explore other options, such as doing it in the summer or in your senior year, and then wrapping up some final prerequisites for programs thereafter for that biochem. So a couple alternative options, but if you're wanting to do organic chemistry in that second year, that means you have to finish general chemistry in summer of your first year. So we do offer Chemistry 223 online over the summer. Just the lecture, the lab is in person, so that could be an option. We could also look at community colleges near home that may offer Chemistry 223. You could take it there, transfer it over at the end of the summer, and then from there sign up for organic chemistry. So we got options. I just wanted to bring this to your attention, as this is something that you're going to want to think about pretty early on if you're a first year student taking general chemistry. Okay, so that concludes the presentation part of this. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to email us at prehealthadvising@uoregon.edu. I do want to share a couple additional resources, so hang on tight. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and get to my page here. Here we go. So all of this information is also located on our pre-health website, so do take a look at that. Under the plan section, you can see that dentistry 4-year overview page. So it has the common requirements there, and it also has a sample 4-year plan if you want to take a look at that as well. There's footnotes that goes over all of those nuances that we talked about. And then there's that link to that ADEA Go Dental website. So do take a look at that and download that Excel sheet that I showed you. Aside from that, there is a link to our Canvas page. If you don't have access to that quite yet, I do recommend filling it out. And on our Canvas page, every section in the modules is going to have its own section for a profession. So if we scroll down to dentistry and plan, you can download a 4-year overview of that plan section of the website that I just showed you. So there's a PDF format of that. And then more importantly, you'll want to download this document right here. So this can help you organize a list of programs you're interested in applying to. You can jot down their web address, specific academic requirements, pass, no pass policy, and additional details. So this is a good sheet to have as you're exploring programs. And then in addition to that, we also have this template here. It's an activities journal. So as you are gaining shadowing hours and extracurricular experiences, super important that you're tracking it. So this document can help organize that information. It also has a section in there on reflecting on those experiences. That is an important part of this process, as you are eventually going to be writing essays for your dental school application and getting ready for interviews. And so going back to previous experiences that you've had to kind of brainstorm on what you would want to talk about is really helpful. So do recommend that you're doing that work as early as possible. On the Canvas page, we also have a calendar, and that's going to list out any on and off campus events that are happening. So take a look at that throughout the year for anything that you might be interested in. All right, and that concludes the end of this presentation. Thank you so much for listening.